Hello and welcome to MISD Assessment's video-based training on Test Accommodations for 2018. This video is presented by the Mansfield ISD Department of Research, Assessment, and Accountability and is designed for campus testing coordinators in the Mansfield ISD, in addition to other staff members who will help supervise state assessments, by which they can initiate their state-mandated training for the 2018 calendar year. This video will last approximately 20 minutes and will cover the items listed on screen. Changes for 2018 are fairly minimal and offer campuses more flexibility in meeting students' needs. This presentation will highlight the implications of those changes. We'll also focus on the supports that are typically most common on state assessments in MISD, and we'll cover some other fundamental issues when it comes to providing accommodations to our students. In 2018, students may still take STAR paper or online with designated supports. The online edition of STAR may also include any or all of the available online embedded supports. STAR Alternate 2 retains the same approach as 2017, although Pearson has further streamlined the process for entering student data online. TEA continues to list accessibility features available to all students and designated supports, most of which are locally approved, with a few that require TEA approval. You'll find all the details of these features and supports at the URL listed on screen. MISD Assessment also provides designated support documentation in the Google Drive public folder. TEA still emphasizes overarching principles regarding classroom accommodations on STAR. Accommodations should be routine, effective, and independent. In other words, students should use the accommodations regularly and on their own, and there should be evidence that doing so improves learning and academic performance for the student. For purposes of state assessments, TEA stipulates that nothing used as an accommodation may have internet access or photographic capability. And the agency issues the disclaimer that not every classroom accommodation will be allowable on state assessments. The determination of eligibility for designated supports is handled basically the same as it was in 2017, with ARD committees, 504 committees, and LPACs making most recommendations. This year, RTI teams will have more options than ever before. As in the past, other groups as determined by campus principal typically addresses emergency supports, such as when a student suffers an injury and needs basic transcribing. Now let's look at the actual supports themselves. This frame categorizes supports based on the determination of eligibility, and it may require a longer look to understand everything. To the upper left are supports that are available to students who receive special ed or 504 services or who have an RTI plan. This list adds math manipulatives and supplemental aids, but eliminates others that you may remember from last year. 3 of these supports require a disability or disorder, and 2 of those 3 may also be available to ELL students. To the lower left are 2 supports available only to special ed or 504 students. To the upper right are the 3 embedded supports available only in the online version of STAR. You'll notice spelling assistance listed twice on this frame because it can still be offered in its traditional form and as an online embedded support. Lastly, to the lower right are the 4 supports that require TEA approval, all of which have their own specific eligibility requirements. As mentioned earlier, TEA's website includes a link to documentation related to each support. Each document includes the 6 subheadings listed on the left side of this frame. When examining these documents, it's important to look at examples, particularly on math manipulatives, calculation aids, supplemental aids, and spelling assistance, for which TEA has stipulated that only the items described in the document may be used. TEA has also posted guidelines for embedded supports available in STAR Online, specifically for content and language supports. These guidelines describe all the features used to deliver the support to the student in the online interface. Neither text-to-speech nor spelling assistants have guideline documents because those supports simply deliver a specific designated support using a single embedded online tool, whereas content and language supports offers multiple tools and therefore warrants a breakdown of them. Now we turn our attention to some designated supports that tend to be used more commonly in Mansfield ISD. The first of these is transcribing, which consists of two types: basic transcribing, which is a local decision, and complex transcribing, which requires TEA approval. This frame outlines the examples from the document for each support. As in years past, the only tests on which complex transcribing would be delivered are Grade 4 and 7 Writing and English 1 and 2 EOC. And transcribing is only considered complex if the student dictates his or her composition directly to the staff member. Remember, complex transcribing also requires the student to dictate capitalization and punctuation. All other transcribing is considered basic. In most cases in MISD, students use basic transcribing, including word processing software where the computer has had spell check, autocomplete, and internet connectivity disabled. If your campus has any students receiving basic transcribing on a paper test, be sure to check the basic transcribing document, Special Instructions, Item 8 on page 3, for the specific verbiage to include on the answer document. This frame outlines the items that may and may not be read to the student in an oral administration based on the assessment section of the TEA document. Keep in mind, oral administration is still allowed in its traditional form, where an adult reads all or part of the allowable items to the student. It can also be delivered online using the text-to-speech option. If a given student receives oral administration according to the IEP, 504 plan, LPAC, or RTI plan, support can be delivered through the traditional or TTS method. It is not necessary to document the specific method in the student's plan, although it is allowable. When determining which option to use, campuses should consider the implications on Grade 4 and 7 Writing or English EOCs. Text-to-speech allows reading of more content than does traditional oral administration. But that flexibility should be weighed against the pros and cons of the online versus paper format. The relevant decision-making group should focus on the best interest of the student. For any test administrator who will deliver oral administration of STAR, he or she must be aware of the additional responsibilities involved. These include agreeing and adhering to TEA's requirements regarding confidentiality of secure content on the test administrator oath, and familiarity with the STAR oral administration guidelines, which are housed in a separate book from the test administrator manual. Next, we look at supplemental aids, which are now available to students with RTI plans. TEA has again released a presentation that provides guidance on allowable supplemental aids, and this frame shows two examples from that presentation, a mnemonic device and a fractions chart. Both examples shown here illustrate the main characteristic of allowable supplemental aids. They should include nothing explicit related to the academic content. TEA's philosophy is that there is a line between support and advantage, and labels, keywords, highlighting, etc. cross that line. Please note that addition and multiplication charts are still not listed as allowable supplemental aids. Instead, addition and multiplication charts are identified as calculation aids. The rationale for the change is mainly to discourage the use of these charts in grades 3 and 4, because the skills addressed by those charts are embedded in the mathematics TEKS for those grades. Here again, TEA intends to draw the line between support and advantage, this time based on grade-level student expectations. Speaking of calculation aids, please note that in 2018, TEA has expanded the calculator policy, requiring campuses to provide calculators for students taking STAR Science in grade 8. That change means that calculation aids as a designated support are now available only to students in grades 3 through 7. Now we consider the three designated supports that are available embedded in the online version of STAR. Text-to-speech remains an option for the delivery of oral administration. Content supports and language and vocabulary supports have been merged into a single support known as Content and Language Supports. TEA also now offers spelling assistance as an online embedded support for the grades and subjects shown. Please note, students using this form of spelling assistance may also use traditional methods of spelling assistance. For details on each of these supports, consult the relevant TEA accommodation document. As for designated supports requiring TEA approval, our office will continue to provide a district-level approval request form for campuses to submit. That form includes information that will not go to TEA but will be used locally for tracking purposes. We will then submit TEA's accommodation request form with only the information required. Remember, approval of these requests is not guaranteed, although our office can make recommendations that increase the chances of TEA approval. Also, keep in mind that these supports carry additional guidelines from TEA, so anyone involved in delivering a designated support requiring TEA approval must be informed of those guidelines and follow them. Speaking of guidelines, Mansfield ISD will maintain its district-level accommodation time guidelines in 2018. If an accommodation is removed from a student's IEP or other plan, that change can be implemented immediately on state assessments because there's no need to establish removal is routine and effective. However, MISD stipulates that any new accommodation added to an IEP or other plan requires 4 weeks to meet the routine and effective guideline issued by TEA. Therefore, any change that adds an accommodation may be implemented on state assessments 4 weeks after the decision. The accommodation can be used in the classroom immediately, but if an administration of STAR occurs within that 4-week window, the new accommodation will not apply to the STAR administration. Typically, this district rule has the greatest effect on the first round of STAR, but the appropriate dates for all spring administrations of STAR are shown on this frame. Next, we address accessibility features, which are available to any student without the need for any special population status. You'll notice amplification and projection devices are now listed under assistive tools. It's also worth noting that reading assistance on Grade 3 Math is still available to all students, provided the assistance is minimal and requested by the student. As always, our office recommends offering accessibility features on a case-by-case basis, as opposed to advertising their availability as a matter of course. It's important to consider the potential logistical concerns created by having numerous parents requesting certain accessibility features. For instance, some campuses could end up with more requests for individual administration than adults in the building. So be judicious when offering accessibility features on STAR. This frame addresses 3 items that may provoke questions by now. First, you may have noticed photocopying has been removed from the list of designated supports requiring TEA approval. New for 2018, if photocopying is required because of a vision issue and the student needs a larger font than what is provided on a large print test, as long as the IEP or other plan identifies large print as a designated support, the campus is authorized to photocopy to attain a larger font without need for TEA approval. Photocopying guidelines for this purpose are provided in the large print documentation published by TEA. If photocopying is needed for a different reason, the support requires TEA approval and is designated as Other. Second, for Grade 4 students taking the online version of STAR who may be slow on a keyboard, TEA still allows campuses to collect handwritten compositions from those students and type them exactly as written into the ETS browser using the student's test ticket. This provision for Grade 4 writing is not considered a designated support and does not need to be documented as an accommodation. Lastly, you may be wondering about dictionaries, which have not been mentioned at all to this point, but are clearly absent from the list of available supports. That is because the revised STAR dictionary policy requires campuses to provide dictionaries for students taking any STAR reading, writing, or English assessment at all grade levels. So the designated support known as dictionary is no longer available. Instead, campuses are responsible for making them available to all students on the relevant tests. Rounding out this video is a brief description of the codes used to document accommodations on STAR answer documents. This process is the same as that used in 2017 with one minor adjustment, as shown by this image taken directly from the DCCM. Answer documents will still show 3 possible codes, 2 of which refer to specific supports. Any designated support approved for a student that is not large print or extra day is documented simply as DS for designated support. The appropriate bubble should be marked even if the student did not use the specific support. For online tests, the embedded supports are documented automatically based on the student's registration. If the student is approved for an additional support, such as extra time, that support must be documented using the ETS online system. We'll provide instructions on how to enter this information at a later time. Why do we provide those instructions? Because the job of MISD assessment is to provide guidance and support to you. So feel free to contact us if you have questions. We also encourage you to make use of our informational resources on the web, including our website and YouTube channel, and you can also follow us on Twitter at MISD Assessment. We always do our best to provide the most up-to-date information available regarding STAR testing. Thanks for watching.